Temporary Highs and the Violet Skies, an album by Snoh Aalegra. This came out last week, but we reserved the right to review things a little bit later. 15 songs, 46 minutes long. But this is actually my favorite neo-pop album of the year, personally. Dethroning...
I agree 100%.
Yeah, dethroning Jasmine Sullivan's Hotels, which is a phenomenal album and still remains a phenomenal album. And it's going to make the Audioface Awards very difficult for me.
100%.
But this is amazing.
It's a fantastic record. It's funny because this first track, Indecisive, it starts off with my least favorite thing, second then... Well, it starts with two of my least favorite things, right? Making your whole album caps and starting off with auto-tune. Like that's a super no-no in my regard. But that after I like sat through that first 30 seconds, then the rest of the song was gorgeous and a great opener to get you sucked in the album. I was like, whoa. Because it was funny, the first like little opening, I was like, I'm ready. Let's get this crap over with. I'm like, wait, well, I'm surprised. This is actually quite good. And then you get into the album, and there's only a couple features. You have Tyler, the Creator, on 2 tracks, which we'll get to in a little bit, and James Fantleroy, and that looks about it for features, because it was not very heavy at all, which I think is good for a trap and B record, because a lot of it could get oversaturated with a lot of different and clashing features and stuff that don't necessarily make the record better, but I think you can hinder it a little bit. But I've found that a lot more last year than this year. But anyways,
yeah. I'll basically echo what you said, in that the first maybe 30, 40 seconds of Indecisive may be my least favorite part of the entire album, and then everything else really is great. It's really interesting the way the features are chosen, because the previous Snoh Aalegra album, which recently, I guess friend of me, Sam, had recently recommended to me a while ago, just before this album had come out, I listened to it and it was really good. It has no features on it from what I remember, and so the features being carefully chosen, like 2 Tylers, when you do like 2 features together, it's really good on that. So we'll give it to him there. But when you go down to Neon Peach with Tyler, the Creator, they do this really good back and forth thing together where, Tyler has his chops in neo-pop R&B kind of things. You can do that really well with Igor, and now especially with his newest project, Call Me If You Get Lost. And so they do this really great thing together on the song where they really sound good together.
Love Neon Peach.
Yeah, really solid track. And one of the great things about, I think I've had to eat a lot of my words recently on how I classify albums and things, because artists have, and I think it's a good thing they have been challenging and changing those dynamics of what these things are. But I think a good neo-pop album, like a good R&B record, should just play through start to finish and just sound smooth and nice. And each song on its own is good, but all the songs together kind of work really nicely through. And that's the way I review albums usually. It's not till like the third listen until I start shuffling things around. And just all the songs play together and transition very smoothly. Like between Indecisive and Neon Peach, you have Lost You, In Your Eyes, Just Like That, which are all really wonderful tracks, especially in Your Eyes. You get a really good show of Snoh Aalegra's just like vocal range and ability to just kind of like really go off of those things. Very, very nice. And then afterwards, you're going down to like, we don't have to talk about all the other things, Tangerine Dream. It's just really, really good. It all sort of plays together sonically. In ways where a lot of neo-pop albums, in ways that are totally fine and we'll like still, will sound a little bit more different. We'll do a little bit more genre bending and shifting based on usually catering to artists that are being featured on there. But I think by not doing that and just being very careful and cautious with what you're doing and really inviting the features into the world of Snoh Aalegra, you're getting a more cohesive project as a result.
For sure, because you can kind of say that about Emotional Oranges, their EP that came out a few months ago, that sometimes they would cater a little bit towards the artist, and that was just a small issue I had with them, and now I want them to kind of push their stuff forward a little bit, but there's still a lot of good substance in that. This to me is such a really good complete project in its entirety, where everything flows well. The pacing of the album is great too, because a lot of neo pop albums and trap and beat albums that have came out the past year and a half or so, I'd have a lot of issues with pacing where maybe it was like it would be really top half heavy or then bottom half heavy, or it'd just be the same theme of love, betrayal, and blah blah blah, like just over and over and slapped in your face the whole time that you get annoyed by the album. But this within there's a lot of different substance through it and everything flows. Because even like between the two Tyler songs, between Neon Peach in the Moment, it kind of slows down a little bit with We Don't Have to Talk About It, Tangerine Dream, Temporary Highs. And then there's this gorgeous song Violet Skies right before it, which is almost like this just smooth jazz track. I just love, I really bopped to that right before In the Moment. And you get the second Tyler track, which is also just a banger, really good. So I'm really impressed with this album a lot. It's a pleasant surprise. It's one of those things where, I'm glad that we get to listen to this and everything, because without the podcast, this is something I might not ever hear, or I might maybe hear it in passing or something, but never get into it. So, but I really like In the Moment, where you can kind of hear a little bit more of Tyler's kind of vocal range and everything in there too, a little bit more of his flow, but not just as rapping, a little bit more experimentation with his voice and everything, which you don't get to hear super often. I heard a little bit in Igor here or there, but a little bit more produced. But this is a lot more raw, and them going back and forth, Snoh Aalegra and Tyler, just fantastic track too.
Yeah, On My Mind with James Fauntleroy. Let's get at that. It kind of reminds me of like this James Blake kind of thing, where it's this like really ethereal backdrop, electronic-ish trap and electronic-ish sort of trap and beat thing. But damn if it isn't pretty sounding. Yeah, I really like it so much. And it's a really also, I don't really talk about these things about artists very often when I do, but I'll just take maybe 30 seconds to do it here. Snoh Aalegra is just a human being. Very, very good. Like super awesome. This album came out last week when we had a really heavy week of like Vince Staples, a couple of artists coming out. And all the artists, they do this thing where they're like looking at the numbers and looking at the feedback of their like records when they come out. And so I think on Spotify, Vince Staples last week was number 1 and Snoh Aalegra's Temporary Highs was number 2. And they both shouted each other out and like in their posts on social media and stuff. Like it wasn't like a competitive thing. It's like, oh, we both got like number 1 and number 2 like most streamed albums last week. Like that's dope. That's awesome. If there's a Vince Snoh Aalegra collab in the works, that'd be pretty amazing. I think their styles could really work together. But there's also another thing that was like going around on social media where people were comparing her to Sade as like, or who's better or whatever. And like, even she had to jump in and was like, there's no reason to make this comparison. I love Sade. She's the queen. She's inspires me really heavily, but I'm doing my own thing. Like they're just really fundamentally different. There's no need to make the comparison.
Yeah. Well, Sade is also a group too. It's not just the lead. So it's a completely different thing than just a singer-songwriter as well. And that's, I think people miss that comparison a lot because Sade is the whole group. I forget the head of its name off the top of my head. But then you have a lot of these different singer-songwriters that always get compared. I'm like, you can't really make that comparison because it's a bunch of people collaborating with each other and everything compared to a singer-songwriter. So it's never quite a fair comparison. And also Sade is like on the they're on like a whole different level of goodness. So
yeah, which Snoh Aalegra says, it's just like, listen, she inspires me like incredibly.
Inspires so many people.
Yeah, and so like, don't compare us. We can be different things and we can exist together without like one being better than the other. Because like, it's no competition. Snoh Aalegra will end that for you right now. It's Sade, but like, just enjoy us both. And like, they're fucking great. Snoh Aalegra is on a track with her career. It's really phenomenal. So yeah, any other thoughts on this album before we go to Arbitrary Scales?
I like it a lot. It's a really good project. I'm pleasantly surprised by it. And it's one of those things where now we're getting into the big summer block of records that we really enjoy. And we get to now think ahead in the next, 5-6 months to the Audioface Awards. So it's one of those things where it's like, it gets to be on our radar and everything. So fantastic.
Yeah.
Arbitrary Scale.
Warner Brothers properties or characters. I'm going to give this the Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman effect? All right. Shit. Who the hell do I give this? Warner Brothers owns everything just about.
They own like the scraps that Disney doesn't.
I know. So that's what I'm trying to think. I'm like, what is Disney? What isn't Disney?
DC.
Oh, Batman. There you go.
Given this is
Yeah, that's
Batman.
right. Because it's Warner Brothers. Yeah. So this is the Batman studio, wherever they did the Dark Knight trilogy, and Christopher Nolan's beautiful, gorgeous films. Yeah, that's where it is.
Yeah, that's Warner. All right. Very, very worth it. I'll definitely give it that.